Welcome back to the Matt Return Podcast. I'm Zach Allen.
And I'm Kaleb Boyer.
And we're back after the Journeyman Collegiate Classic. We had 20 Penn State wrestlers wrestle last Sunday. A lot of them did well. Some of them didn't do so well. I mean, Kaleb, what were your initial thoughts?
I definitely think that all around things were really solid. The guys who everyone expected to win won, except for Robbie at 125. It seems to be kind of a concern with Braden kind of pushing on him for the starting spot. Messon Brick, similarly, kind of looks like we kind of discussed it briefly, but that he's going to be the guy at 165. And I think last week in media availability, Kale's kind of unwillingness to say something about it leads me to believe that as well. And then not getting Facundo from media as well kind of speaks volumes, I think.
Yeah, and I think Shane Van Ness also was probably the all-around best performer. He had three falls, all within the first period. He hasn't had a match early on, go outside of that. We will see at the All-Star Classic against Kyle Parko, but I think you bring up a great point at 125. I think, after last season, it was kind of, the struggle. Everyone was thinking, I wish we had Robbie Howard back. I wish we had Robbie Howard back. And then, there's going to be some rust. Let's be real. He hasn't wrestled in almost 2 years now, right, competitively. But yeah, I don't think that was, maybe what he planned on doing. And it was kind of disappointing, considering Gary Steen, on the other hand, had 2 tech falls. And then, like you said, Braden Davis, kind of stepped up. But yeah, at 165 pounds, I think it like you've said, it's been very telling. We have media tomorrow or on Thursday, where we can ask him more about it.
Right.
Obviously, but, I think it's definitely something to watch. Getting into, some of the All-Star Classic stuff and, the Black Knight Invitational, I mean, what are your expectations from that? Is it just going to be another tournament, really? I mean, the All-Star Classic's a little more than that, but...
For the Black Knight Open, the thing I'd probably most pay attention to is Nagao, because it's going to be his first action and for Penn State. I don't think he's going for the All-Star Classic. We were looking at it before, but he should be going for the Black Knight Open. That's expected. He said he was going to wrestle this month, so that is what I would most pay attention to for that.
Right. I think, the top half of the lineup really is where a lot of the action, or maybe the most exciting action, is going to be. Aaron Brooks, he's wrestling Tanner Sloan, last year's runner-up at 197 pounds. This year we have a new Aaron Brooks. He's not at 184, where he's been dominant his whole college career. And it's harder to move up a weight class. You get a little more of that freedom to eat what you want, and gain that muscle, and not have to keep the weight. But he's wrestling stronger guys now, and a national runner-up is not an easy early season matchup. And I think that's what the All-Star Classic is about, is trying to get some of these high quality matchups before the season really kind of picks up. And then another one is Greg Kurtvliet, a heavyweight, against Wyatt Hendrickson. I feel like that's going to be insane. Those Service Academy guys are strong and tough. And we know Greg slimmed down a little bit this offseason, about 10 pounds. He said he was kind of feeling a little tired last week. And he kind of made the decision right after the NCAA tournament last season. And I think that will give him, a little more agility and quickness. But, there's going to be that lack of strength, maybe a little bit more than usual. And, going up against a guy like Wyatt's caliber, there's going to be some exciting ones. I don't know if Penn State will go undefeated, but I think they'll come out with the majority of victories for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much it for us. We're going to get into some fan discussion questions now, our fan segment. Last week we only had 2. You guys blew it up this week in our comment section. I have 10 comments right now. We'll go through most of them and kind of discuss, what you guys wanted us to discuss about. Uh, First one up from Luke Vargas on X/Twitter. Which starters are going to benefit the most from the new rule changes, in your opinion?
Well, we were talking about this a little bit before the show. Van Nass, I feel like, Carter, those two guys especially stick out to me just off the bat. I feel like with how quick they are, that it can they can really rack up more tech falls. I mean, obviously Carter doesn't need any help, but getting a tech fall just a little bit quicker can, it can really stick out on the stat sheet. Maybe a major that he would have had last year becomes a tech fall all of a sudden. I mean, it can make a difference.
Yeah, it definitely piles up quick. I think those were my top names as well. Carter's he just made quick work of people, and we haven't even really seen how the rules have impacted Shane. He hasn't gone past the first period. So, but I still agree. Even last season, he was one of the more aggressive guys on the team in terms of trying to get takedowns. I know their whole thing is trying to score points, but I think he might be the number one, benefactor of this, especially if he gets in situations like last season where he needs to come back.
I think it could benefit Levi as well. Levi had a similar situation in the tournament, one or two matches where he kind of racked up a couple of. I don't remember who it was against when he had that comeback in at NCAAs.
Oh yeah. It was Bryce Handonian from Virginia Tech.
So who knows? That might benefit him as well.
It's a whole different world. Next up, we have a prediction from Kyle Craybill. Penn State will have 7 in the finals this year at NCAAs. We talked about maybe 10 All-Americans, but 7 in the finals. Let's hear your take, Kaleb.
I don't think that's all that crazy. Aaron Nagel, Brooks, Carter, Greg, Levi. I'm assuming he's talking about Van Nass
and Bo Bartlett.
Because I don't think he's probably not predicting one at 165, 125. So yeah, that's not that crazy to me.
Yeah, and it could be 8. I mean, go through it again. Aaron, Bo Bartlett, Shane Van Ness, Levi Haynes. We'll see who's at 165, but for now we'll assume Messenbrink. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, and then Carter, Truax, Aaron Brooks, and Greg Kirkfleet.
I didn't even mention Bernie. Yeah.
Yeah, 7's not all that out of the picture at all, which is crazy to think about. Obviously, that's months away. There's a lot that still has to go down. But yeah, I think that could be a valid take at the end of the season. And then we have heavyweight match on Tuesday from @Moatman. Is Greg strong enough in the match versus the Air Force Beast? That's what he said. Wyatt Hendrickson.
I don't think there'll be an issue. I don't want to be like expect Greg to win, but they did face last year at NCAAs in the semifinal, and he won, I think, 4-1.
Yeah, I think it was 4-2.
Oh, was it 4-2?
Same thing, essentially.
So Greg's a little bit lighter. Maybe he gets a takedown quicker than we were seeing from him last year, where he was kind of grinding out wins with the riding time. It's not really going to be something he can do anymore, so that's probably contributed to dropping the weight. So, but we'll see. It's definitely a big matchup for him early in the season before we get into the grind of the Big Ten schedule.
I think it's 2 different styles of wrestling, where if Wyatt ends up on top, it could take a while to get out, but we've seen early there's a lot less mat wrestling with the new rules as well. So we'll see about that. I feel like that for me might be the headlining matchup if I had to pick one. How long is the leash for Robert Howard at 125 from @Hoseman36?
Well, how far into the season did we get last year for Haynes and Barraclaw? It was right before the Iowa match, I believe, right? Right before they burned his red shirt.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, there's going to be some rust coming back, and I don't think you know, given how Gary Steen wrestled last season, and then, you know, you have a true freshman, I don't think you can just immediately, after one tournament, I'm not saying that's what, you know, he's saying, but.
Well, Steen only got one win in Big Ten duels last year, and I believe he had a handful of them in open tournaments to start the year, because I think he had 4 or 5 wins in the year. So, I mean, you kind of got to take the beginning part of the season with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Yeah, I definitely don't think we'd see a change before Big Ten conference dual meets start happening, in my opinion.
They're going to want to avoid burning Braden's red shirt if they have to.
Yeah. And then we have at Casey Wilson 781 and at Dave Smeltzer 5 kind of asking similar questions here. Ken asked, did Alex Facundo take an Olympic red shirt? Mitchell Messenbrink competed in the Journeyman going 3-0. Is now ranked number 17 by Intermat. And Dave said, who's the starter at 165?
I definitely think that it's Mitchell for now, tentatively, unless something goes off the rails.
Yeah.
The Olympic red shirt is a pretty good point, because he's a junior champion. He can afford to take that right now. And it kind of feels like Carter's not going to be here next year. He can bump back up to 174, maybe be a little bit of a spot for him.
Yeah, I think that's just the correct take. And for Ken, you know, not being ranked on Intermat, we saw that, you know, Terrell Bearclaw was ranked last season before Levi took over the starting spot, and then he fell out of there. But yeah, I mean, some of these questions, you know, will be answered tomorrow at Cale Sanderson's media availability. I think that's definitely one at the forefront. Same with, you know, 125, Robbie Howard. So, you know, we'll have more answers after tomorrow's press conference, Thursday's press conference. And, you know, we'll be back here next week. Thank you for submitting your questions. That's going to be a weekly thing. So I put out a tweet every Wednesday. I'm sure Kaleb will do the same. My at Zach Allen 0.
Mine's Kaleb Boyer, M-I, Kaleb with a K, so like Kaleb M-I.
Yeah, if you don't have to leave a question either. You know, we had a prediction kind of in here. Just leave anything that, you know, you think would be interesting for us to discuss. But for now, that's all from us. Again, I'm Zach Allen.
And I'm Kaleb Boyer.
And we'll see you next week. Peace.